Welcome back, everyone. This will be my full Miss Marvel Episode 5 video. There were a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references. We'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. Because Thor Love and Thunder is also out this week, we're also doing a giveaway for movie tickets. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and just post all your Miss Marvel theories on the video. Careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the episode yet. We'll just start at the beginning and go through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs and WTF moments as we go along. The big thing is that they just confirmed a lot of theories that people had about what really happened in the past to the great-grandmother Ayesha and what's going on in present day with Kamran's mother, Najma. I know there's a lot of questions with the mechanics behind the way their powers work, especially at the end of the episode too, like how's she able to transmit all of her power to Kamran so instantaneously as she was dying. I'll talk about that when we get to that part of the episode. But the actual episode title was called Time and Time Again. It's a reference to Miss Marvel time traveling and actually witnessing the events of her grandmother's stories the day at the train station during partition and sort of setting off a grandfather paradox situation where she becomes the person who helped herself become Miss Marvel in the future by saving the grandmother who had the bangle in the past. The actual episode starts with an old Hindi song playing over a custom black and white new version of the Marvel Studios logo in the intro, as if we were watching a Marvel movie in the late 1940s with that level of technology. They did the exact same thing during the first couple of episodes of WandaVision that were set during previous eras of television with different levels of technology. So the video is made to look like we're watching a British broadcast during the 1940s. And the opening scene is of an actual British broadcast about the partition getting ready to happen August 15th, 1947. This would have been a couple years after Captain America had gone into the ice during World War II. Peggy Carter would have already started working at the SSR, which was the precursor agency that became the modern-day SHIELD organization, obviously before Captain America Winter Soldier happened. So while this is playing out during this era, we would have had young Dominic Cooper looking Howard Stark, the younger version of Jarvis on the Peggy Carter TV series. We also saw older Jarvis in the 1970s with an older version of Howard Stark, played by John Slattery during Avengers Endgame during the Time Heist mission. They kept the same version of Jarvis and just gave him old age makeup, but obviously they'd already used a slightly different version of Howard Stark in the Iron Man movies, so they wanted to keep it being John Slattery instead of just putting old age makeup on Dominic Cooper during Avengers Endgame. In all the footage explaining the actual partition here at the beginning of the episode is meant to be real historical footage taken from that era. And it's all accurate. It explains pretty much what partition is, how they divided the original larger country of India up after the British basically left it to itself, pretty much creating the modern country of Pakistan as you know it now, forcing a massive number of people to be relocated to the newly created Pakistan, including Kamala Khan's family because they were Muslim. They flash back a couple times in the episode to earlier periods to explain the birth of her grandmother, but the period that Kamala travels back to is just that moment at the train station during the actual partition, the last day on the train that her grandmother kept telling them about. We then flash back to 1942, and the moment's meant to be her great-grandmother running from the British soldiers immediately after they all take off from the Ten Rings Temple, like directly after this moment. And they have another custom version of the standard Miss Marvel TV show comic book title sequence too, this time done in Hindi characters, and the art style is meant to be in a traditional style, just meant to reference the events of the episode taking place mostly in the past. Obviously she comes back to the future at the end of the episode, but most of the episode took place during the 1940s. And after another short time jump, we're just meant to see her great-grandmother seeing her great-grandfather for the first time, talking about Gandhi here in the town. They explain how they met and how her grandmother was eventually born, how they formed a family, and why she decided not to try and go back to their alternate dimension. Just because she had this new family to protect and she cared more about them than she cared about going home. Also, probably didn't want to try and blow up half the planet in trying to go home or consume the planet, as the Red Daggers explained in last week's episode. Like, oh yeah, if they were actually trying to go back, we would get absorbed into the other dimension. It would just consume this entire dimension eventually. Which kind of winds up playing out towards the end of the episode until Najma sacrifices herself to close the barrier. It's not so much an explosion as more of them being absorbed, kind of like we saw during the first Doctor Strange movie, with Dormammu trying to basically take over the entire main dimension by absorbing it into the dark dimension. We find out that the poem that Kamala found etched on the bangle was her great-grandfather's poem, which itself is based on a classic poem that's much, much older. It says, "When the soul lies down in the grass, the world is too full to talk about it. What you seek is seeking you." And the poem just in general is about achieving a more enlightened state of existence, like letting go of ego and ascending to a higher level of existence. Just simply choosing a higher version, higher expression of yourself. Which I think they're using in the episode to be a metaphor for Kamala Khan sort of transcending herself and becoming the superhero version of herself, like becoming full comic book Miss Marvel. also learning to use her power without the actual bangle itself. They tease that a couple times during the episode because you see a couple different characters using their newer power without the actual bangle. They also use the poem What You Seek Is Seeking You to be a reference to the end of the episode when the great-grandmother Aisha tries to use her power to bring the grandmother, who's a little girl, back from the future to be the one to save herself, but it winds up pulling Kamala, the great-granddaughter, instead. That's why when she first sees Kamala Khan, she mistakenly thinks that it's her daughter. I think the idea of their connection with their power across space and time is also meant to reference what's happening with Kamran at the end of the episode, basically getting his powers activated by his mother when she sacrifices herself. It's kind of that same biological connection that they have, even though they don't totally explain that. Don't worry, I'll get into that later in the video too. Like, how exactly are they connected with their power, their biology? But when they actually flash forward to the birth of her grandmother, you notice Aisha is wearing the same outfit she was in the picture that Kamala saw of her with the flower in her hair, and her grandmother had been drawing those pictures based on her memory. The rose in her hair is meant to be from the roses in their garden. And I'm assuming she only took the bangle off like very, very briefly because you see Kamala's grandmother playing with it as a baby. Then if it wasn't clear why her husband was so pissed off at the person offering them food, the idea is that they're being pushed out of their home, no one's buying his goods and selling anything to his wife at the market because they were Muslims, they were different culturally from the rest of the people in the town, and they were part of the group of people in India that were forcibly relocated to Pakistan after the partition. Then they basically confirm all of our theories from the past couple of episodes about what really happened to her great-grandmother Aisha. Kamran's mother Najma is the one who tried to kill her to take the bangle because Aisha didn't care about going home. Like I explained, she didn't want to go back to the clandestine dimension because she had this new family on Earth she wanted to protect. And even though they don't completely ever explain why Najma is so dead set on going back to the clandestine dimension, I think the idea is that there's something in that dimension that she left behind or that she was forced to leave behind that she wants to get back to. Like, there's something that she really cares about in that dimension. It's not that she just wants more power or anything like that. They want you to sympathize with her at least a little bit. But it's basically the same conflict in the past that you see playing out in present day, where she learns about the bangle, then tries to kill Kamala Khan to take the bangle, or at least force Kamala Khan to help them get back. As I said, they also confirmed the theory that Kamala is the one who at least starts to help saving the grandmother, like she is the person who led to the creation of the Trail of Stars. The way they explained the actual Trail of Stars, though, is that when Kamala was trying to save her with a platform and was hurt, the platform broke. It broke into a bunch of pieces, and the smaller pieces just looked like stars. So it really was Kamala that saved her in the past. Like I said, grandfather paradox. Because the grandmother had the bangle in the past, which kept it in the family line. You could also think of it as a bootstrap paradox, because like the event of her coming back in time caused her to get the bangle in the future. The funny connection to Kang the Conqueror is that that's basically what Kang does, or all the different Kang variants across the multiverse, is they basically protect or enhance the events that led to them becoming the version of Kang that they are in the future. I think the big reason she sent the bangle with her daughter was just to keep it out of Najma's hands. But also, if it wasn't clear, all of them within their family line have the same power, like her grandmother exists the same way that Kamala exists. With part human DNA and part clandestine DNA, the mother is the same as well too, so like they'd all be able to use that same newer ability. Then after the grandmother's save, the bangle sends her back to the future, like she falls back through the portal into present day as if no time has passed. Everyone's passed out because of the explosion caused by the bangle the first time. And if it wasn't clear why the veil had opened and was spilling out all this energy, it's just because the bangle had given off so much newer energy with that explosion that sent her back into the past. They have a really quick joke about them using the Find My Phone feature to learn where Kamala is, but that's a real thing. Like, you can actually do that to find missing people. Very handy for finding lost family members. Then they don't completely explain why the clandestine are killed when they try to enter the portal. Like, they say, it won't work, you're all gonna die anyway. It sounds like it just has something to do with the unstable nature of whatever this portal is, the veil between different dimensions. But like I said, what the Red Daggers explained in last week's episode is coming to pass, with the clandestine dimension basically absorbing the regular dimension, killing everyone theoretically, like everyone would die like this. And also, they don't completely explain the mechanics behind what happens to Najma and Kamran with the transference of power. But I believe what's going on here is that when Najma sacrifices herself, like she transcends her human form to her natural form, more energy-based form, uses that power to close the portal, then whatever vestige of her power is left transfers to Kamran because of some biological connection they have through the clandestine dimension. Like something about the clandestine biology allows them to transfer their energy through generations like that. So like theoretically, her grandmother and her mother could do the same thing to her. Like if one of them were to die off, like if her grandmother died, she could transfer her power to Kamala. It's one of those details that I don't completely expect them to explain in the final episode. They might wait till like the Captain Marvel 2 movie, The Marvels, to explain everything, because part of the reason for making her powers work this way, making her from an alternate dimension, is just to flow with the plot of that movie. The obvious big connection here to the Captain Marvel 2 movie is it connecting with what's happening in the Shang-Chi movie, because Captain Marvel very literally appeared in the post-credit scene teasing the origin of the 10 rings in this alternate dimension. It's just that we don't know exactly who the signal is being sent to, just the idea that it's being sent to whoever created the 10 rings. With the symbols on the 10 rings being very similar to the symbol on the bangle, and them both coming from the ancient past, many hundreds of years before they found the bangle in the 10 Rings temple. A lot of people also now wondering if the blue arm that they found it on is Atlantean because of what's happening in Black Panther 2 with the Atlanteans. The mother or the grandmother are able to reconcile, like the mother sees everything is real, and I think that's the reason why she has the picture with her. Like the great-grandmother gives her the picture of her great-grandfather to give to her grandmother in the future, but it's more about making the mother reveal that all the stories were true. Everything that Kamala says and everything that just happened actually did happen. Because that was the big source of conflict for them when she was growing up. Like her mother said that growing up, she never believed the crazy stories about their family, but now obviously she saw it happen, so she believes it. When Red Dagger is saying goodbye, he says the US government has warrants out for his arrest. I think we're meant to assume that the Red Daggers group has also been active inside the United States in the past, just chasing down those other clandestine, and that's where those warrants came from. He also winds up giving Kamala the red scarf that becomes part of her upgraded comic book accurate costume that you see in the comics. And they have this funnier moment where they explain that her broken necklace that she had worn this whole time, which translates to her name basically, broke, but it broke into the shape of the Miss Marvel comic book symbol, so it's a funny way of saying that she's going to be running around in the future fighting crime wearing her name, in the way that, say, like Captain America runs around with the A on his costume, like running around with his name on his costume. They have a bunch of funny pictures of her mother as a teenager. The tickets, as she explains in the photo album here, are Bon Jovi tickets. And then they have the tag scene at the end with the powered-up Kamran going to Bruno for help, because at least for right now, they want to explain that Kamran is a good person and he wants to help Kamala Khan, and obviously escape damage control, because now that most of the clandestines seem like they're dead, it sounds like the big threat in the finale is going to be damage control. Then I think most of you probably understood the actual Argon joke here, like it's just a regular chemistry joke. All the best science jokes are gone, as in not here. It's kind of like a dumb chemistry joke, like a dad joke. They're really just using this moment to kind of clown on Kamran and just show you that he's kind of a meathead. Kamran not getting it, like, argon, one of my favorite elements too. Also thinking that the Nikola Tesla poster is because he's a Tesla car fan. Like, yes, the car company is named after Nikola Tesla, but that's not why he had the poster on his wall. That I don't remember if the series has referenced Bruno's parents being dead in the past, but he says his parents are gone, so they're either dead or they're just completely gone, and he's probably living with his relatives, like he wouldn't be living completely on his own. Then mention the devil and he shall appear, because the minute that they mention damage control, one of the Stark Tech drones in black, like a stealth drone, shows up tracking Kamran. He uses his power to try and stop it, causing it to retaliate, so RIP to Bruno's shop. I talked about this in an earlier episode. Even though Spider-Man No Way Home changed the timeline, so like the Edith glasses didn't wind up happening with a version of Peter Parker, because now in this timeline, Iron Man would have never known a version of Peter Parker. They wouldn't have had that same kind of relationship together. But it seems like Iron Man still created the drones ultimately, and then they were co-opted by Damage Control. So these are all meant to be like Stark Industries drones, just repurposed for whatever they want them to do. The end credits for the episode are meant to be the same end credits that we saw during last week's episode, the ones with all the comic book art, but done as if it were happening in Karachi, because they literally traveled to Karachi. And yes, the green Miss Marvel symbol at the end with the star is meant to be a reference to the flag of Pakistan. Overall, it was probably one of the shortest episodes of the series so far. It was only about a half an hour long without the credits. There's still a ton of questions about how all this connects with what was happening during the Shang-Chi movie, the 10 Rings. Obviously, there are a lot of connections and Easter eggs to other Marvel stuff. Like I said, the Iron Man connection with the Stark Tech drones. All the connections to the Captain Marvel 2 movie. I think that Captain Marvel will wind up showing up in a cameo scene during the finale too, paying off the comic book Easter egg with her showing up to talk to Kamala Khan. Because the whole idea is that she's this fangirl of Captain Marvel. They spent so much time talking about her in episode 1. She ultimately bases her name on Captain Marvel, calling herself Miss Marvel. So probably one of the easiest predictions to make is that Brie Larson will have some kind of cameo scene in the finale, and it'll lead into what happens during the Captain Marvel 2 movie. Like, it'll be some teaser for that. But if you spotted any big Easter eggs in the episode that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments, or if you have any questions about what happened in the episode, and also post all your theories about what the post-credit scenes are going to be in the finale. Like, what are the cameo scenes going to be? Who are you expecting to see show up in the last episode? And because so much of the plot now turns on this alternate dimension of the clandestine, it sounds like that's going to be a big thing during Captain Marvel 2, or at least some of the newer energy from this other dimension. But you can post all your theories about that in the comments too. Thor Love and Thunder is coming out this week, so I'll do my full post-credit scene video, full breakdown Easter eggs for the movie when it comes out in a couple days. I just posted my Thor Love and Thunder review video. You can click here for that, and you can click here for my brand new Loki Season 2 first look and Easter eggs video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.